All right. So we're going to pick up where we left off in 5.6. Let me I always forget. Who's not here right now? Jonathan, Medicine. Yeah. All right. So we're going to pick up where we left off. We were writing this song, and class ended, bell rang, we were in the middle of this, and I went and I just finished it right there because I wanted my code to save, because if I didn't finish it and didn't actually run it, then the code wouldn't have saved. So I went in and here's what I did. Okay. I created a verse method. We passed in a string number. We started this last time, right? Did we do the chorus method together? Maybe. Okay. All right. So basically, I created my verse method. I'll walk through it. My song class, I create a verse method. I could make this even simpler and write a whole nother method that says the ants go marching, and that just copy. I could also write a method that says hurrah, hurrah, right? But we're not, that just returns that every single time and saves me doing that. But I'm just keeping that there. So the ants go marching number by number. And then the chorus, and they all go marching down to the ground. I literally copy and pasted this, right? To get out of the rain, boom, boom, boom. Then in my main method, I created an object from the song class called S1. And it says new song. And you could name it whatever you wanted. I called it S1. And then I wrote S1.verse1, suck his thumb. That's the two arguments that I'm passing in. And then writing S1.chorus, and that runs the chorus. Then passing two arguments into verse 2, right? And then two arguments into verse 3. Each are followed by the chorus. Okay. I ran it. Any questions on this? This is what this looks like. I'll zoom out so you can see it all together right there. Okay. All right, moving on. 5.6.3, design a class for your community. Copy. In lessons 5.1 and 5.2, you came up with a class of your own choice relevant to your community. Copy your class with its 3 instance variables, constructors from lesson 2. Okay, so I'm going to go back to lesson 2. And I guess this is what I had. So I clicked on where it said your class from lesson 5.2. And I'm just going to paste it all here. So let's just refresh ourselves what this class did, because I forget. We had a class called student. We had 4 instance variables. Luckily, see, look, this is why we use comments, because I'm looking back at this and remembering, and it's a lot easier to remember when I write comments. That's why we write comments, because you might go months or even years without looking at certain code and then forgetting what each thing's for. So I'm remembering now we had 4 instance variables, and we were dealing specifically with being able in the very end to pass these arguments in that fill in for name, graduation year, etc. Okay. I think this is what they had referred to. I clicked on it and it took me right. Oh, you know what? I clicked on 5.2. 5.2.5. Sorry, I'm reading through this here. .1 community challenge. Is this not what we did? This is what you did? Because I'm looking and I can't find. I'm looking specifically in design for your community. I don't remember doing this, to be honest. Did we not do this? No. Hold on. Design a class for your community. I looked. That was like, I feel like the code I just copied in here wasn't what it wanted. I don't know. It tells me this. It says, design a class for your community. It says I haven't even run it yet. Is this new? How did we skip over it in 2 lessons? Did they add this in there all of a sudden?
I thought we had done this. Maybe it like did that.
No. Like the code that I copy and pasted right here is from something else. Here, let me. No, check us out. This is what. Look, I went back to 5.1. Like, where did this come from? Because check it out, 5.1. We didn't do anything for that.
Yeah, because you skipped over it because you weren't about that. Yeah,
That's what I said?
Well, not word for word, but you skipped over it because.
If you'd rather work on this project as a standalone, are you sure? I think I skipped over something in Unit 4, but not Unit 5.
Well, no, this was something that would carry on throughout like the rest of it, and you just said you're not doing that.
Are you sure? I have video evidence. I can go back and look at it.
You can go.
I feel like they just updated it and threw this in here because I don't remember seeing this.
I'm gonna check the 5.2.
5.2 says everything was like attempted at least.
Correct. Right. So like if you go to 5.2 as well, because 5.2 wasn't long ago. If you go to 5.2, I also have a blank design a class for your community. Does anyone remember skipping over 2 activities? I don't remember that. So you should go look at 5.2 and see if I'm going crazy.
I'm going through the video.
Did I just say I don't care about design? I don't care about the community? Is that what I said? I know it's been a while. We did that before Christmas break, right? So I do forget things. Maybe I did say that, but I really don't remember that. I don't know. Well, I know what I'm not doing. I'm not going back and doing it. So, I don't know. There you go. So there's that. And I'm going to not do it. It says design a class for your community, 5.6, 5.3. I don't remember ever doing that with 0.1 and 0.2. So we're just going to move on to the summary part. So it says procedural abstraction. Procedural abstraction, creating methods reduces the complexity and repetition of code. We can name a block of code as a method and call it whenever we need it, abstracting away the details of how it works. Okay, this is just a summary of everything we went through. Hi.
Sorry, we have a minute to, we
Yeah.
just reschedule that, do you need to get the kids or?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the kids
Let's
now.
reschedule, I'll have to
Okay.
reschedule whenever she can.
All right, no problem. No problem.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So as you look through all the summary of this stuff, it doesn't include anything that was in the design a class for your community. But these are all concepts and things we learned in this lesson. I know we broke this up over 2 days. We talked about the parameters that are passed in and writing these methods. Okay. AP practice, let's look at this. It says, consider the following class, which uses the instance variable dollars to represent the money in a wallet in dollars. The put money in wallet method, I guess let's read through it. I have a class called wallet. I have a private instance variable called dollars, and it's a double. And then I have a put money in wallet method. Okay. It says int amount. So what's missing? The put money in wallet method is intended to increase the dollars in the wallet by the parameter of the amount passed in, which the following code would do that. Okay, so dollars would be assigned to the amount. Or sorry, dollars would be added to, the amount would be added to the dollars, right? So this is a good start. And then you would return the dollars. This is what I'm going to guess, C. I'm adding in the amount that was passed in. Let's run it. I believe it's C. Correct. Okay. Consider the...
You're not casting me.
I'm not casting you right now? Man, look at that. Everyone's probably wondering what the heck's going on. All right. That's what my screen looked like. I was reading through it. I have my public class wallet. I have my private variable. Okay, this is an instance variable. Dollars being added in. If you look at dollars, you add the amount to it and then return dollars. C. Thanks for letting me know. All right, I have a class liquid. In it, I have two instance variables. I have my current temp and my boiling point. I have my constructor, public liquid, right? It's being passed in a parameter. It's an int CT and an int BP. CT gets assigned current temp, boiling point, BP. And then I have a Boolean, I have a method down here, okay? It's going to, since it says Boolean, it's going to return a true or false value. And then I have what's being passed in, the parameter amount. The isBoiling method is intended to return true if increasing the current temp by the parameter amount is greater than or equal to the boiling point. Okay, which of the following code segments can replace the missing code? Okay, so it says if increasing the current temp by the parameter amount is greater than or equal to. So I'm just going to scroll down until I see greater than or equal to. Right? Let's look. If the amount plus the current temp is greater than or equal to the boiling point, return true, else return false. Let's look at the others. If the current temp plus the amount is less than the boiling point, but I guess like if it's equal to the boiling point, then it'd be boiling. So let's look through current temp. So let's say water boils at, is it 100 degrees?
It's
100 degrees Celsius. What does it boil in Fahrenheit?
405 at 1. Fahrenheit 45. No, for Fahrenheit is 451 or what?
451?
It's 212.
212?
212.
You're bad. Boiling point. All right. So let's say the current temperature is 200, and then you add 11. That's less than the boiling point, so it would return false. So I guess this one would work. Okay. So 1 and 3. Is that an option? 1 and 3 only. D. Let's try it. Correct. 1 and 3. 10 out of 10. Completed. Well done. We did it. Finish 5-6. 5-7. Static variables and methods. In Unit 2, that was a long time ago. In Unit 2, we explored the math class. That's when we talked about like random numbers, right? And adding things. It seems like so long ago. And it's many static methods like math.random. And we've always used a main method, which is static. In this lesson, public static void main. We know what public means, right? It's not private, public. We know what void means. It doesn't return anything. And main is the name of the method. But what does static mean? We actually mentioned static in Unit 2, and I was like, don't worry about static right now. We'll talk about it later. What is static electricity? Is that a physics thing? Is that what that is?
No, it's static electricity. It's like held in place. Like when
Right, no, but when do you learn about static electricity?
I want to say
I'm learning about the circuits right now in physics.
Physics, static electricity.
I'm learning about circuits, but like that's the closest we got to electricity.
What's like, isn't it like static when you like take a balloon and you like rub it on your head and that like makes your hair stand up, right?
Yeah, it's the charge in your hair.
it is physics. Yeah.
You learn about it in physics.
You learn about it in physics.
So it says in this lesson, you will learn to write your own static variables and methods. Static variables and methods belong to a class and are called with the class name rather than using object variables like class name, method name. I'll say it again. Static variables and methods belong to a class and are called with the class name. What does that mean? Okay. So it says there's only one copy of a static variable or method for the whole class. For example, the main method is static because there should only be one main method. What if you told your computer to go to 2 different places in the same exact time, right? It's like putting 2 addresses into the GPS and give me directions to 2 of these places. It probably can do it differently, but static methods can be public or private. Public static. The static keyword is placed right after the public, and you can remember that because public static void main string args, right? What was our acronym that we came up with? Peter says very mean things always. Really mean. What's that? Peter says very mean stuff always. I don't know. Whatever. Let's look at this. Okay, so I have a static variable could look something like this. I don't like these very vague visuals. I want to see something more. Static methods only have access to other static variables and static methods. Static methods cannot access or change the values of instance variables or the this reference, since there is no calling object for them. And static methods cannot call non-static methods. I feel like all this is just like you're hearing it but not listening to it because we need to see it first. Show me something. However, non-static methods have access to all variables. So let's look at it and then we can go back and read it. Okay. I like seeing and then going back. Okay, so I have a public class called person. And then I have 3 instance variables, name, email, phone number. I then have a static counter variable. It says public static int person counter assigned 0. Okay. I also have a static method to print out that counter, public static void, and then that system.out.println person counter plus whatever that variable was. Then down here, I have my constructor where I'm passing in those values. Init name is assigned name in the instance variable. The init email parameter is assigned to the email instance variable. The init phone is also assigned here to the phone number instance variable. Person counter, it's added 1 to, right? So inside of here, I've added 1 to this variable person counter. I also have a toString method. You guys remember what this was called? Besides a toString method? When do I use a toString method? We'll talk about it in a minute. Return name plus whatever the email is plus phone number. And this is our main method. We create a new instance of the person class, so a new object called P1. In it, I'm passing in sana at gmail.com, 123456789 It's my phone number. And then a second person, P2, you're passing in these arguments. And then it says I'm printing out, checks out person dot print person counter. Notice that I called from the person class and said person dot print person counter. Why would we ever need this, right? Let's run it and take a look. Okay. So it says try adding another person and see what happens. Add P3. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. It said Gene. There's Dean at gmail.com. And Dean has the same exact phone number except has a 405 number. I'm also this is going to annoy me. Okay. Went in and added hyphens there. Let's rerun it. Okay, person counter is now 3. Let's reread what we're talking about now. Okay, what was all that we were talking about before? It says static methods only have access to other static variables and static methods. Static methods cannot access or change the values of instance variables or the this reference. However, non-static methods have access to all variables. We've used non-static methods up till now. Instance or static. So static, it says does not, okay, cannot call static methods, okay, and they do not have access to and cannot change instance variables. Okay. Since there's only one copy of a static variable or method, static variables are often used to count how many objects are generated. Okay. In the following class, person, there's a static variable called person counter that is incremented by 1 each time the person constructor is called. Okay. We really didn't learn too much about it. We'll move on though. Another common use for static variables is to keep track of the minimum or maximum value or an average of the values in a collection of objects. So it says, consider the following temperature below, which has a static variable. What is the output of the main method? So I have a class called temperature. In it, I have instance variables private double temperature, and then I have public static double max temp. Okay, so I'm not able to edit this. Okay, public temperature. Okay, this is my constructor. And if I'm passed in T, I'm assigning temperature to T. And then what I'm doing is it says T is greater than max temp. Okay, what will happen? It says, what is the output of the following main method? Let's look at the main method. I have T1, I'm passing it in 75. When 75 is passed in, 75 is stored as the temperature. Okay. If T is greater than max temp, didn't we say that we cannot access the static variable? Right? We can only access it inside the static class. There is a compile error because the static variable max temp cannot be used inside a non-static constructor. That would be B. Wrong. Wrong. Non-static methods and constructors can use any. Okay. I'm sorry. Non-static methods and constructors can use any instance or static variables in the class. My mistake here. Okay. So this public method right here, okay, since it's the constructor, okay, I was assuming that the constructor didn't fall in that, but I have a public constructor. I'm able to use this value. So I have 75 passed in for T1. What is the output? I'm printing out. So 75 is assigned. Is 75 greater than the max temp? The max temp is 0. True. So the max temp is now assigned 75. Passed in 100. Is 100 greater than 75? Yes. So now the max temp is 100. Is 65 greater than 100? No. So the max temp stays 100. So C is my answer. Yes. So my mistake on that, I put B. I didn't read thoroughly enough. Okay. If this was a static class right here, or sorry, a static method, if it was a static method, I would not be able to access that. Mixed up those two things. Okay, fix the bugs in the following code. So I have a class called temperature. I have a private double temperature. I also have a public static double max temp. Okay, let's see where things fall. I guess I'll go down my main method and try and run it, and then I'll go from there. So I have temperature T1 is assigned new temperature. 75 is passed in. It's assigned to temperature. And then if temperature is greater than, if temperature is greater than the max temp, then assign max temp to temperature. Okay. So 100 would be passed in then. 100 would be assigned to temperature. Is 100 greater than the max temp? 75. Yes. Then at the bottom, temperature.print max. That's how I would access the static method there. And I think that would work. Let's see if that's what it wanted. Public static invalid method return type required. So I would need to return something instead of printing out, print max, public static, did I say string, print max? Let's try that. Public static string print max. Compiling. It says non-static variable temperature cannot be referenced from a static context. So that was in line 17. Okay. So non-static temperature. So I'd make that static. Let's see what that allows me to do. Missing a return statement in 18. So I would say, could I do a workaround and say public static? Maybe I can say public string, public string print max. That might not need to be static. Let's run that. Remember, this was saying fix the errors. So I'm going through and just going through one at a time as they come up. Non-static method print max cannot be referenced from a static context. Temperature. Okay, so now I would say I could just say T1 print max. No, I don't want to do that. So let me just put this back. Public static. I could call public static string in line 15. Let me try that. Error missing return statement in 18. What did we end up doing up here? Let's take a look. We wanted to print out.
Teachers and students, please pardon this interruption. As you likely know by now, AACS will dismiss 2 hours early today due to inclement weather. Please listen carefully to these additional pieces of information. We will dismiss today after block 2B and second lunch and make no further adjustments to the schedule. So today's dismissal will be at 12:55 p.m. Teachers, you have already received an email with a revised schedule for the remainder of the week. Students, parents, and guardians will receive a similar email later today. Plan for block 3 to occur tomorrow. The revised weekly schedule will clarify when blocks will occur for the remainder of the week. Thank you.
Trying to figure this one out.
I put it as void instead of string, and it still did everything right, but it wasn't an error message.
Show me where.
Like where the next to sprint max, I just put void instead of string. I don't know what that really did though.
Public static void.
Yeah. I don't know if that. I'm not saying that.
Oh, because I'm not returning a string. Duh. Print method returns right value. Print max method.
I think it still has to return something.
So the print max method returns the right value. Let's look. So it's passed in. So let me look. So temperature is 75. 75 is assigned temperature. Is 75 greater than the max temp? Yes. So then it returned 100. 100 isn't the right value?
I think, well, I feel like you got it wrong. It has, it doesn't have, for max have to return something. Then you can't do it as forward, right?
Well, it says, well, what the print max, the whole purpose of the print max method is to print this out, print out the temperature. So print max method returns the right value. This doesn't make sense because it says expected output from main is 100. 100 is greater than 75. Our program did what we wanted it to do. All right, I'm blaming the book on this one. Sorry, they made that super confusing. And that's the problem when they explain difficult lesson or difficult concepts like this, is when they make things this confusing, it makes you not want to learn it. So hopefully this one's more straightforward. I'm moving on. I'm going to skip that because we have the right answer. It's right there. It literally tells me expected output from main. I'm going to skip over that. It says programming challenge, static, song, and counter. In the last lesson, we wrote a class and methods to print the ants go marching. Notice that this is a class where there are no instance variables, and we don't really need to generate multiple objects. With students or pets, it makes sense to have multiple objects. With the song, we can just make the methods static and have just one copy of them. Copy in your class from the last lesson. So I'll say I'll copy all of my code from 5.6, the ants go marching. I'll copy all of that into 5.7 at the bottom here. Okay. It says change the methods that print out the verse of the song. In the main method, change the methods that print out the verses of the song to be static. Public static void, public static void. In the main method, change how you call the static methods by using just the class name instead of creating an object. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just like comment all this out.
We can't do this screen for the other part.
I have to keep doing that. Sorry, guys. Let me go ahead. Here's what I did. It's probably super confusing. So I went in and copied everything from, I think when I click on that, when I click last lesson, it opens up a new screen for me, and I just go with that one. Okay, so here's where I'm at. Okay, this was what the ants go marching from the last lesson, right? All of that is there. And then what I did was, here at the bottom, I commented out this. So lines 25 through 32. So this is what I had. Okay, and I commented this out. I'm going to write it right below. And so basically what it's telling me to do, it says In the main method, change how, well, I guess going back, change the method and print out the verse to be static. So I changed these two to be static, the chorus and the verse. I'm sorry, the verse and the chorus right here. And then down here, it asks me, it says, in the main method, change how you call the static methods. Remember that we were calling the static methods by using the class name and then immediately using the method name. So we would do temperature, song, dot, chorus, sorry, song dot verse. I'll just copy all this right here, paste it. So I'll say song dot verse, song dot chorus, song dot verse, song dot chorus, song. All of that to save me one line of code. They probably could have thought of a better way to present this, but let's run it. Let's see what I got wrong. Line 41. Oh, I guess I need to close my class. Don't know how I lost that one. All right, let's run it. Okay, so I only did step one. That's probably why. So I ran it and it worked, but then it says add a public static variable. Okay, so I'm going to say public static variable called num versus. So it will be an int num versus assigning it 0 to the class that keeps track of the number of verses. Increment this variable in the method verse. Increment this variable in the method verse. Okay, so I come down to verse and I'll say versus plus equals 1. And print it out at the beginning of the verse. So I guess I'll take num versus, add 1 to it. And I'll say system.out.println num versus. See if that's what they want. Oh, semicolon. Num versus plus equals 1. Let's look. Okay, so look at my output. 1, 2, 3. That's all right. Checking that code increments and prints num versus. Increments false. What are they saying? I see 1, 2, and 3, right? Isn't that incrementing by 1 each time? So do they want like num verses? Do they want it like this? I can do that. Num versus num versus. Sometimes it's just hard to figure out what they want. Num versus, num versus. All right, so that's what I did. I added those in there. Let's test it. Oh my gosh. Checking that code increments and prints num verses. True.
How else would they implement if it's not by one?
Look, ants go marching one by one. It worked. Look. The ants go marching one by one. I had it written out one by one, and it didn't like it. So then I'm doing what it's hard to understand what it wants me to do. Checking the code increments and prints num verses. It incremented and it printed num verses. Checking output from the main, the little one stops to suck. To suck a thumb? What? It was his thumb before, right? Look, I copied it before. Suck his thumb. Let me try suck a thumb. That doesn't work either.
I think it's because you have to have it at the end.
This is error on line 5.
So what'd you say, Greg?
Like the way I have it set up is at the end of it, it just prints out like the number of verses. Because I had to make a method to print out the number of stuff. Right here, underneath it, I had to make a new thing, print out the number of verses because it's static. And then after each verse concludes, I increment number of verses. And in the end of the main method, I just print out.
And it liked yours?
I liked it.
Hold on. Let me take a look. So you created a whole method.
Yeah, because we did that in the previous examples. Because in order to print out the static method.
Right, but it doesn't tell us to do that though.
I did.
Right. So Greg found a workaround. It works. I know exactly what you're doing. But like if I'm treating this like if I'm a student or if I'm like an employee and work for a company and someone's giving me very specific directions and it says do this, right? I'm literally following it to the T, right? Change the methods that print out the verses to the song to be static, right? We did that. Boom, boom. In the main method, change how you call the static methods. In the main method, it doesn't say to change and write a method in here. It does not say that. It says in the main method, change how you call the static methods by using just the class name. We did that. And it works. Ultimately, it literally prints the same exact thing and does exactly what we were asked to do. Okay? Did that. Step 1 done. Check it off. Cross it off. Add a public static variable num verses to the class that keeps track of verses. Does not say to create a method in there.
But at
It
the
says
end-
increment this variable in the method verse. I'm inside the method verse
and then print it out at the beginning of the verse.
and print it out at the beginning of the verse. Create a variable. So, sorry, it says increment the variable and print it out. So I'm incrementing the variable and printing it out. And it's doing exactly that. And that's exactly what it wants. And I'm not going to change it because that's what it asked for. Okay, look, ants go marching one by one. Hurrah, hurrah. If you want it to go back and say one by one, right? Well, then there's no reason of passing this in, right? Why even pass in 1, 2, and 3 if we're not going to use it? Right? So that's silly. So I'm going to go ahead and just put these back to number. Like we originally had the very first time we ran the code. Right? So it likes it now, but it's saying that we didn't increment num verses where we've incremented it each time. And the proof of it is this 1, 2, 3. So completed, well done. That's my answer. Static method, spent way too much time on that. I just wish, this is why like it's so hard to find like good computer science curriculum. And that's why for like intro to computer science and like AP computer science principles, I had to like do my own thing because you face problems like this. And if you're a new beginner and you're facing these types of problems, you give up because you're like, oh, well, I don't get it, right? It doesn't make sense. This does what it's supposed to do. This is wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong. Static. Probably confuse you more than you actually learned anything, but we'll keep going through these code examples. Hopefully you at least now know what static is. They said, so I was like half listening to the announcement. So they said that we were just getting off school at 12:50.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Just no period.
Okay. What's that?
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Well, you won't see me in the classroom though. 5.8, scope and access. Okay. The scope of a variable is defined as where a variable is accessible or where it can be used. The scope is determined by where you declare the variable when you write your programs. When you declare a variable, look for the closest enclosing curly braces. This is the scope. Right? The scope of a variable is defined as where a variable is accessible, right? Java has 3 levels of scope. When I think of scope, think of like telescope, or you know those things that you like look into and you can like see pictures on the other side. You know what I'm talking about? No? You get them at the beach sometimes. Do you guys know what scopes are? Am I like too old now for that? Does anyone not know what like a scope is, like that you look into? Does anyone not know? It's like no. Like they're these like actual like keychains that you get made. Let's say you get a picture on the beach or a picture. I have one of me at soccer camp when I'm like 6 or 7 years old, and it's like on a keychain. You can pick it up and you look into it, and you can see a picture of you when you were a little kid. But it's like with one eye, you're looking at it. You guys have never used these?
I don't know what those are.
I've never used one, but I've heard of it.
Do you know what one is? Yeah. So my friend in college, he used to work. he would basically, it was his job to just go up to random people on the beach and be like, "Do you want a picture?" And take a picture and be like, "Come buy a picture and look in the scope." Like I think his job name is like Scope, like he was creating scopes or something. I don't know. And for each person that bought one, so he had basically had to like get the picture with them and like sell them. Like, oh, go to the stand and go buy one. They're awesome. Blah blah blah. Guess no one scopes are. What's that? Well, he like that's a long story. But he went down there. He went down to the beach, didn't have a place to stay, and he would just like every night either he would sleep on the beach or he would like find a friend and just like hang out with them, and then like he would just like go to random people on the beach and meet people and make friends, and he was a very social person. But that was his job. He would literally just be on the beach all day and just like try and get people to buy these scopes. Anyway, it's a long story. Yeah, a scope. This is not the same kind of scope, but that's what I think of, or I think of like telescope. It says there are three types of scope that correspond to different types of variables. You have a class level for instance variables. You have method levels for local variables inside a method. Then you have block level for loop variables and other variables defined inside of blocks. Okay, so these are some examples. Okay, so all three are in this code right here. So let's say I have a class called person, my instance variables. This is the class. They're accessible all throughout the class. Okay, so private string name, private string email. Then I have my method scope, which is inside the method, right? The int length is what's being passed in. That variable is accessible, the length inside of it. And then we have the block. Think of the I. I is assigned 0. That's a variable, right? So it's only accessible inside that block. If you were to talk about I up here somewhere, it would have no idea what you're talking about because I is not at the same scope as this block that's right there, that for loop, right? Once this block ends, the variable is not accessible, okay? That's why we're able to call it there and use it in there. Click on all the variable declarations there at the class scope level. Okay, that's at the class level. These are public name first. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to still click these. First name is not an instance variable. First name, I don't know what first. Wait, the first name. Don't know why they did that. That's silly. I think they did just to try and get you to click on it. Two of the elements are not. Well, they're the same things. All right. Correct, but not correct at the same time. First and last are instance variables, and they're both being assigned right here too. So, variable declarations. Okay, I see what it was. These are variable instances. These are the declaration of it up here. Okay, so there's two class variables, right? First and last. They were accessed down here, but they were only declared up here. Gotcha. So the key word in here was declarations. Click on all the variable declarations that are at the method level. Okay, so there's where it wants me to say, okay, this is a variable declaration at the method level. These are not declarations. These are instances. You clicked on one of the correct remember that the parameter variables and the local variables declared inside a method. What is it asking me to do? That makes no sense.
Key parameters. They're also
It wants me to put there.
Yeah. They're also decorations because string.
Fun fact, I don't agree with that, but we'll let it slide. Okay. Never have I ever heard that. Okay. So what it's saying here is, since we want to do it the way that they want it, okay, method level scope, it's saying that this is passed in here, the first and the last, okay, as well as first name. I don't like referring to the parameters, right? I'm going to continue to keep them as the parameters that are inside there. And technically, here's the problem with that. They weren't when it was originally called in the main method, wherever the main method is, that's where that number was originally passed in there. So not a fan of that, but local variables are variables that are declared inside a method, usually at the top of the method. These variables can only be used within the method and do not exist outside of the method. Parameter variables are also considered local variables and only exist for that method. It's good practice to declare any variables that are used by just one method as local variables in that method. Okay. It says instance variables at class scope are shared by all methods. I'm going to go ahead and stop here because we're going to have to go through this. I feel like we're going to end up running out of time. So we're just going to go ahead and end here. We'll pick up at local variables and go back through this. So that way we can go into here next class. All right. We're able to get a few things accomplished today. That's it.